in your opinion, do you prefer like a modern car or an older car? And then, do you want an electric car or not right now?
I I don't know. I don't know if I get an electric car right now,
Mm-hmm.
just because like the infrastructure's not there. I think an electric car is probably a good thing to get in the long term because it's better for the environment and everything.
Right.
I'm not trying to have a beach as much as making my house a beachfront property would be nice. I'm not trying to have a beachfront property. So uh the EV adoption would be a good idea, but like we keep saying, it's just not something that's entirely feasible. That's probably why like most people are going for hybrids and stuff because you get the advantage of being like, I'm going green with at least I have electric for some of it. But then it's like if you're in an area where it's like you have absolutely no, uh, you know, charging ports near you, it's like okay, at least I'm not stuck in the middle of nowhere. I have a gas backup just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Yeah.
is definitely a way more positive looking option than a pure EV.
Yeah. I agree. I think that if I was to ever get like a brand new car, it would be an EV, or sorry, not an EV, a hybrid, over an EV and even over like a traditional car, just to have the all the options available, right?
Mhm.
And the only other thing is like I don't necessarily know if we're getting that much of an improvement on an electric vehicle versus a traditional like gas powered vehicle in terms of protecting the environment because you still have to generate electrical energy and
Yeah,
in
but
like
I feel
factories
like
and
the
stuff.
long-term goal is probably, eventually making all that energy just green, so it's green all the way through. But that's
Yeah.
a thing at best. I feel like that is when people say it's better for the environment. That because obviously, right? It's like, yeah, you're charging it with like off the coal power plant. That's not really doing much.
Hmm.
But I think the way people are looking at it is it's greener because electricity is making the switch to green because it's wind power and solar power. So by switching to an EV, you're like getting ahead of the curve and like getting ready for when electricity goes green. And I'm like, but it's not really there yet. So it's not really
Yeah.
doing too much. I mean,
The
I'm sure it's still an improvement of driving a gas car,
Yeah.
I would say, but I don't think it's as crazy as these companies are trying to make it out to be.
Hmm.
Um, but
Yeah, I would hope it's like at least marginally better, but we don't really know specifics. At least the two of us don't. Maybe some other people
no,
do,
we
but
are uneducated.
yeah, I do think that if we had a lot more nuclear power, then sure, I think it would make more sense because we'd also
Yeah,
be
nuclear power is a good option. It's just that
people don't want
Chernobyl
to live
happened,
near
so
yeah people don't want to live near power plants and stuff like that, which I understand, but it's personally I'm like, okay, if we can get like super higher confidence rates in nuclear power, then that would be like
yeah,
efficient and
people
that
just
would be
get
the
so scared
best.
when they hear nuclear. But nuclear
Yeah.
is really not that bad.
Yeah.
Especially the technologies have vastly improved since like Chernobyl and stuff. So like
Yeah.
people like think about that like I'm like that's like 50 years ago, 40, 50 years ago,
Hmm.
whatever. So it's really not
Yeah.
technology. As with everything, has improved greatly since then.
Hmm.
So there's just people hear the word nuclear like, and I'm like, all right,
Just
well,
have a
I
brain
guess we'll just
aneurysm.
like I said, that get ready to sell my house as beachfront property
Hmm.
because it's coming.
Yeah, I think that if we can get nuclear power consistently everywhere, then I would be a lot more willing to do EV
Yeah.
personally
Mhm.
because then I'm like, okay, I
It's
mean,
actually making a substantial improvement
yeah, and then it'll be a lot
versus
cheaper
the gas.
too
Yeah.
because whenever you have like an electronic or in a nuclear power plant, right, electricity prices drop significantly, and so I'm like, okay, if you can do that and make a push on a governmental level to do more EV um, releases on a company level, then I'll be like, okay, cool, makes sense to get an EV, add a few more charging stations, have them more available throughout the country.
Yep.
Then it would make a lot more sense. And you're like, okay, it's going to be significantly cheaper. It's going to be better for the environment, lower risk, right? As long as you can do that, then I'm like, okay, all board, all on board for electronic vehicles. But getting to that point, it's like a lot of people are afraid of nuclear power plants. It's hard to open one, and it's hard to keep them open, right?
Yep.
Because usually, if you have one, people are going to protest about them and say, "We really want this closed. We really want this closed." and then the end result is higher prices on electricity for people, which is
Yep.
ridiculous. So on a practical level, it just doesn't make sense until you have super cheap electricity for everyone, and then and clean, right? And then you're like, okay, cool, you're all good. We can be happy with the
To me, this
solution.
sounds like a purely like utopian idea that is not happening within our lifetime.
Like for nuclear power specifically, I think
Just
that
like in general, you talk like widespread nuclear power, green power. It's significantly cheaper. I feel like that's a pipe dream. We're not going to see that before we die.
I think if we get more nuclear power plants, those areas will be significantly cheaper because,
Yeah,
um,
but I don't think we're getting anywhere near the widespread nuclear power plants that we need
yeah,
within
I agree
any
with you.
reasonable time.
Yeah,
Is
which
more
is
so what I'm saying.
that's the big thing where I'm like, okay, without that, you're not gonna get there with wind and solar. It's not gonna happen. So I'm
No.
like, I don't really know how good or like how green EV solutions are because your power is still coming from like greenhouse gases and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't really see it as the better or like the more environmentally friendly option just yet. I guess I'd have to look at an emissions report compared to like the
Mm.
emissions from like the power plants that are supplying
Rest
electricity,
car, yeah.
you know? I don't know if
Mhm.
that comparison has been done yet, but
Yeah, this is
if it
like a
has,
million cars feeding off a coal power plant. A big difference compared to those million cars being on gas. Like I'm not
right,
sure.
right. So I'm not sure about that. That'd be a good thing to learn, I guess, as a follow up.